You got to invest in your clients if you expect them to invest in you. And then you're building rapport and trust. I mean, that's what this is. It's a relationship business. You're working closely with your clients. You're getting the intimate secrets of the business
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
offering
It's a big
advice
deal.
on those. So you've got to be a trusted partner, and trust is something that's earned. So I would agree with that.
Hey, business builders. Today we are joined by Ed O'Sullivan, who is a business broker, and his company is called VR Brokers. You can find him on LinkedIn. And Ed joins us today. And first of all, he tells us the story about how, after a successful career in medical device sales, he and his wife decided that they wanted to own a business. They were looking for a business casually a bit, and a business that he was a customer of. He planted a seed and it became a possibility that they could buy it. They did buy it, and they started with about 5 employees with a business that is very Main Street, like many of you run, like I run. Really, business coaching has become pretty Main Street. So they bought this business: fireplaces, chimneys, fireplace doors, cleaning of chimneys and wood burning stoves, all that kind of thing. They bought this thing, it had like 5 employees, and he said it was a diamond in the rough, is the way he described it. They polished the diamond, they put standard operating procedures in place, they cleaned up the books, they got some things to be right, sales systems, so on and so forth, expanded the product line, did some wholesaling, and they held that business for 10 years, and they decided to take it to market. They sold it, they successfully exited, they used a broker when they sold it. After that all closed and they had a little bit of time to think about, okay, now what do we want to do next? They decided that, wow, we like that process and we want to help other people do the same thing. So they specialize in the Philadelphia, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, up into New York a little bit. Within driving distance of the Philadelphia suburbs, they specialize in businesses that are in the $1 to $10 million range. But Ed tells his story about that fireplace business and some of the things he learned. He also goes through some slides on the things you should be considering now, no matter what your sale horizon is, no matter when you think you're going to sell or if you're going to sell, because you are going to exit one way or the other. And he, basically through some of the slides, gives us a checkbox or a list of things on a scale of 0 to 10 that you can do some self-assessment of where you're at right now. You can also think about approaching him or another business broker to get ahead of the curve, to have them do evaluation so that you can determine where are you with that, on track, off track. So today's a great episode. I highly encourage you to listen, take some notes, and reach out to Ed if you're looking for a conversation that will help you think critically about what you need to do to maximize value, to be ready for a sale now or 5 years or 10 years or whatever the case may be. Go get them, business builder.
Welcome to the Business Builder Way podcast, where we help business builders grow leadership skills and wisdom and stay grounded through hero stories. So let's get after it.
Hey Ed, thanks for joining us today to teach us a little bit about selling a business, or about what would we do if we want to sell a business or prepare properly. I appreciate you taking the time. We're going to look at your slides momentarily, but I wanted to start the way we do on all Business Builder Way podcast episodes and simply ask, like, Ed, what is your business building story? I know right now you're helping others to sell their business, but you owned a business and then successfully exited that business. So can you share a little bit about your story of how that all happened?
Yeah, no, certainly. Thanks for having me, Wayne. So yeah, it started off after college, getting a corporate job in the world of medical device sales. So after about 15, 16 years of being in the corporate America, getting extensive sales training, calling on the C-suite professionals in the healthcare system, my wife and I decided to spread our wings and we purchased a business. So we got to experience what buying a business was like. It was a bit of a diamond in the rough, so we polished it up and had the fortunate experience of running that business for over a decade. And then we transferred that business, like you mentioned, successfully. So that gave us the whole perspective on that. So Yeah, we kind of feel like and now of course we're helping business owners do the same, and we feel like we've been training our whole lives for, what we do now. So every little bit of experience we had previously is applicable to
Yeah.
how we're helping business owners currently.
So so bought a business, held it for about 10 years, sold it, and you said polished it. So that I'm curious about that. Can you share how long ago was that? When did you buy that? How old were you? How long had you worked in? So I get this impression of medical device sales of you're working in the corporate world. That's usually we think of that as being a pretty good gig, and you have some financial resources, and you probably maybe you didn't, maybe it wasn't all your money, might have been other people's money, but yeah, like what was going on with that company? What kind of company was it?
Yeah, it was a great gig. I remember I told my dad, "Hey, I'm buying a business. I'm quitting my job, and what are you, an idiot?" kind of stuff. 401k. You had the whole package, and then to do what business owners do is a huge risk. You go out on your own. You gotta have faith in yourself. So yeah, we did it. And that was we've been currently helping businesses transition now. We're in our third year. So we sold our business about 3 years ago, after a decade of operating it. So had I known what I know now, I would have polished it up a little bit more, but I got it nice and shiny. So part of our mission here now is to help other business owners, polish their business up so that it looks attractive, to buyers down the road. So we trusted our gut and our instinct, and we were very successful at it. But having the inside story now with the M&A world,
Sure.
you can shed some light on it, and we would have done things slightly differently. But yeah, it worked out great, and now we get to share our knowledge and help people, do better than us.
So somewhere around 2012 till 2022, somewhere in that.
Exactly.
Okay. And what kind of business was it?
When we bought it, it was a fireplace shop. So it was a retail fireplace shop, and we, help people, mostly residential people, with their fireplace needs. And then we kind of grew it into a service industry, a service business. We also did a little bit of wholesale to the trade. So we had a lot of hardscapers and folks doing like outdoor living, fire pits and things like that, coming to us for the hardware that they would install. So we had multiple revenue streams, when we sold it. So it was a little too small for some of the M&A firms, but we were a little bit too complex and large for I guess what you would call your average Main Street broker. The business world, or the world of business brokerage, is kind of unique. You've got, some professionals for sure, quite a bit of them, and then you've got folks that are kind of doing it part-time. So um, it's an interesting world, and we're trying to help business owners navigate that world, based on our experience.
So when you bought the fireplace shop and you and your wife had said, "Hey, let's buy a business," was it the fireplace shop came up as an opportunity and then you said, "Hey, let's buy a business," or was it, "Hey, let's buy a business, we went looking and that's what you settled on and that's what you found"? How did some of that go
That's a
down?
good question, Wayne. It was more of not so much we wanted to buy a fireplace shop by any means. It was more about the business, the potential, the geography, the market served. There were certain things about certain businesses that were limiting, hours in the day kind of thing, where you can only do so much. So we like the unlimited earning potential that this, kind of offered. And so it was just by random that it happened. It wasn't technically for sale. I was a customer and
Hmm,
had planted a seed, and it had just kind of grown. So I'd like to say I made it happen, but it just was destiny.
nice. And did you get advice from a business broker M&A person when you bought it, or did you go it alone?
I did not. I went at it alone, which actually, where we live in Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, it's hard to be an entrepreneur. Many business brokers don't help buyers. They see them as commodity items. So we try to take that extra hand and help the buyer along, because when you've got both sides that are into it and invested in it, then you can have a better outcome usually. So no, we didn't use a broker when we bought it. We did use a broker when we sold it.
Okay.
And that provided our inspiration.
Nice. When you bought it, like how many people work there?
Five, and I
And when
think
you
when we
sold it?
sold it, there was almost 15, maybe.
Okay, so not huge, but
Yeah.
that's a significant
One.
increase in
Yeah.
headcount.
I got halfway through, I started to use subcontractors for many reasons.
Okay.
It allowed me to do more with less.
What were some of the polishing things that you did do?
We put software in place to track and
Okay.
manage. We put standard operating procedures down on paper. We took a big emphasis in training our folks. I dove into the industry pretty deep and um, got certifications, things like that, that would help me lead the team better. So, in addition to bringing it up to current technology, websites, social media, things like that, um, it was more about taking what was a solid business already and just modernizing it.
Got it. And solid Main Street, kind of not everybody needs a fireplace, but lots of people have them, and those businesses kind of wash, rinse, repeat day after day. They do really make up the backbone of our economy, don't they?
Yeah, and it blew my mind how many people really care about their fireplaces and want it. It's the
Sure.
center of your living room where you often
Mm,
sit with the family. So,
hmm.
the hearth has been a big part of culture for a long time. So, I was a little surprised when people are spending, 15, $20,000 on new fireplace
Yeah.
doors.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so the fireplace looks pretty. So I never wanted to prejudge anything, but we were very successful.
No, it's interesting, just sidebar. I through LinkedIn made a connection with somebody down close to your area. His name's Steve Gunzel. And Steve, I just liked some of the things he posted on LinkedIn, and he owns a like custom spiral staircase manufacturing and installation business.
Cool.
And turns out that he then became the president of the Spiral Staircase Manufacturers Association of America, kind of thing. And it's this kind of cottage, like small industry thing, but there's hundreds of these shops over the country and then over the world where that's all they do is staircases. But to a lot of people, the staircase when you walk in the home is a big deal, just like the
Sure.
fireplace. So
Sure.
yeah, just so rather industry
I was
interesting.
always a fan
Okay,
of the
so you
niche
go ahead.
businesses.
What's that?
I always liked the niche businesses. I wanted to be, the biggest, the baddest business owner. And then I realized sometimes it's not about being the biggest and the best. It's about providing for your family, your community, your employees.
Yeah.
I had aspirations. I probably could have grown it to 50 plus employees, but at some point along the journey, we realized we're in our sweet spot. Let's just kind of hang out here for a little while.
And what made you decide you wanted to sell it? Why did you end up hiring a broker and going to market with it?
Uh, it was many reasons. We were kind of at that point where we would have had to invest another, million plus dollars into the business, get a new location. It would have been a 5-year hurdle for us, which we weren't up for from a family standpoint. So we
Yeah.
decided, and they always say, sell your business when things are going well, when the profits are high and the sales are high and you're on that incline versus waiting till that decline. So we were there and it was just a timing thing. We had always had the intention to, buy it, build it, sell it. We actually had a 15-year plan that we accomplished in 10. So we were going to do it again, actually, was our plan. But then we got to experience being a buyer, heavy with
Mhm.
capital, and some of these good businesses were not properly represented. They were, maybe great businesses similar to the one we purchased, that diamond in the rough kind of scenario, with a lot of potential. People like potential, but they're not willing to pay for potential because it's their hard work and blood, sweat, and tears. So they're not going to pay someone else for the potential. But they do like having that opportunity. So it's hard to find that, if you're a large company, 50, $100 million in sales and, hundreds of employees, sometimes you're well taken care of in the M&A world. But if you're in that weird gray area where you're doing, $1 to $20 million in sales, it's hard to find good representation is what we found. We were on the buyer side. And so our experience led us to what we do now. It was just kind of
Yeah.
a, you know,
Well, it's interesting that I work with a lot of founders, and there's founders that listen to this, and I think the business is, their baby, so to speak,
yeah,
right? And I've had other people in your world say one of the hardest parts is calling somebody's baby ugly and saying it's not ready for sale, or it's not worth what somebody thought about or thought it was. But in your case, it sounds like it's not that you didn't care. I mean, you just said taking care of customers, taking care of your community, taking care of employees, but you also were willing to say, okay, it's time, and we don't want to do another push to the next level. And you were able to let go of it. Not everybody can do that so easily.
yeah, it's still hard. It's funny. I was driving the car the other day with my daughter. We're headed up to the Poconos and we're stopped at a light or something. She goes, Dad, that chimney is way too short. And I'm like, she's 16 years old and she must have been paying attention for the past, bunch of years.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
I was like, you're right. It probably doesn't draft well. So just interesting how that does. It stays with
Yeah.
you, but some people, they are their business. They identify as their business. Like you said, it's really hard. We try to have conversations with people, our clients, before they're our clients. What are you going to do? What's the plan? What's your family think about this? What's going to happen when you
Sure.
don't put on that shirt every day that has your logo on it?
Right. Right.
And a lot of people haven't really thought about that. So we encourage our potential clients to, it's not just a business move, it's a family move. It's often a lifestyle change, things like that. So we want to explore all those things. For us, it was always about the business, not so much, the industry. We love the industry. It's, I love fire, obviously, being a fireman, but it, uh, it was more about the business and the profit potential, for us. But
Got it. So you sold that business, and then you started doing the work that you do now, and of course that's what we're going to talk about. And before we get into a few of the slides that you prepared to help business owners perhaps think about their own polishing of their business before they get ready to sell, um, I wanted to just check in, and people may listen to this and say, I'd like to have a conversation with Ed. I think I want to sell my business, but I don't know how it even works. So I'm going to put the kind of the horse here first, and then the cart will be the slides we do. How do people get in touch with you? Um, and clearly I can find you on LinkedIn, but like, how would a business owner get in touch with you, and what would happen? Like, what do you do? In your world, I think it's so common that the good ones in your world end up serving people ideally 10 years or 5 years or 3 years or a year, as far ahead of time as you can before they're ready to sell. You're also ready if somebody says, no, we really want to do it now, right? But what does that look like when somebody reaches out to you? How will you help them?
yeah, so first of all, we're a, business brokerage M&A advisory firm in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So we cover basically PA and New Jersey, a little bit of New York, a little bit of Maryland, Delaware. A lot of our business, at some point, you need to visit the business, you need to be on site, you need to help, explore due diligence, things like that. So driving distance is key for us. But if a business owner it's probably about 50-50, Wayne. People come to us ready to sell now versus, hey, I just want to have a conversation, better understand it. Uh, we're happy to, entertain both conversations. We prefer the let's get ahead of it, build a relationship, and then work with folks like yourself that do strategy and planning and consulting and coaching in order to, you know, get their business to a point where it's marketable and sellable. So we don't actually provide those services. We're more transactional. We'll
Yep.
find the buyer, we'll help with deal structure, things like that. We'll do the valuation of the business. But often, if a business is not ready, we're going to kind of push them back, give them some advice, focus on this, think about that, so they can get ready. And there are a lot of things that, like I said, I wish I had known that could seriously impact it. I probably could have added, quite a few zeros to the end of my business at the end of the day had I, possibly done things a little differently. So now I'm able to share some of that with business owners. But if someone is ready to sell now, we will certainly work with them. And I've been very successful selling businesses that were not profitable. So, it takes one buyer. You've got to have the right attitude. So we're more interested in the people and the business per se, not so much. I mean, profits are important, profitability. Everyone wants to buy a profitable business, but there's some businesses that because of X or Y, or maybe there's a contract coming, things like that, that they're still marketable as is, but people usually wait too long. But we'll deal with what we got.
And the size business you typically in that geography that you like to focus on?
Yeah, so usually businesses with at least $1 to $20 million in annual revenue is
Okay.
typically our has become our sweet spot, kind of by accident. Uh, 1 to 10 more specifically, but we'll work with businesses of all sizes. It's more about the person
And
connection.
that's a lot like the business that you sold. Um, and there's other business brokers out there. The fact that you did this, bought and then sold, must really be an advantage, so to speak, or something that you have that not everybody has, right?
It allows us different perspectives to see landmines and problems coming. So yeah, we like to think that our experience allows us to provide our clients with a better service, but it's one of those you don't know what you don't know. So most business
Right.
owners have never gone down this road. They don't know until they've had a bad experience or something was overvalued, undervalued, or something fell apart during due diligence, and it's a roller coaster. So, if you're decide to sell your business, take steps to do it, actually bring it to market, get to a point where you've already negotiated an LOI and you're in the due diligence phase and something starts to come unwound, that's devastating for a business owner. You're already planning your exit and now you've got to kind of start from scratch again. So we think a good broker can get ahead of some of those things on the forefront. So by the time you get to due diligence, we want to have a 90% chance of this getting to the closing table. So that's where our
Yeah.
experience lends a hand.
I watched my father sell his business and do it himself. And then we had a broker that helped us sell it the second time after the private equity group had okay, so they didn't buy it the first time, they call it partnering, but they bought a significant proportion of the business from him. Watching him as the founder go through that, both without a broker and then with one, either way, took a lot of work and a lot of time and attention from him. And the second time around, took a lot of time and attention from me, also as the VP of sales. But it was such a good experience having a broker for us, having
That's
somebody to
awesome.
coach us through the presentations that we did, somebody who could tell us what to look for in letter of intent, or how to structure the whole thing and how to process boom 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 to get it all done. It really, because the business takes a lot of attention in and of itself, much less this whole process of selling. So I think a lot of smaller business owners, hear that it's going to, of course, it's going to cost something to have somebody help them, but I really think they need to explore that thoroughly with somebody like you, because it's not something you would do on your own when you're not an expert on that. So,
We certainly like
so
to think so as well, Wayne.
well, good.
Usually,
That's good.
usually what happens is you have an owner who tries to sell their business themselves, and like you said, it takes your eye off the ball. You're
Yep.
not paying it because you're doing two things. It's almost two full-time
Right.
jobs. And then at the very end, they want the trailing 12 months and maybe something slipped in those 2, 3,
Totally.
4 months. And
Right.
they're going to give you a due diligence haircut where they want to now renegotiate the price. The
Right.
numbers are slower, so
Right.
it could be detrimental doing it yourself.
Yeah. Last question before I ask you to put your slides up. So let's pretend somebody is out of your geography. So somebody listens to this in Colorado and they're going to go talk to a, a, a broker like Ed O'Sullivan. What questions, what just, two or three questions should they ask that broker that would be telling as to whether it's the right person for them?
It's a great question, Wayne. I would have them, I'm happy to talk to anyone that's listening to this. Obviously, if they're in your network, I'm happy to help. So they can call me and I can give them some pointers, but basically you want to understand and stress the confidentiality of this with that broker. You want to understand how they're going to market this business. A lot of times, folks will, cut and paste stuff from your website, put it in the business listing. Someone could easily just take that, put it back, put it into some of these AI platforms and identify the business without signing an NDA, things like that. So a lot of shortcuts that could be taken can be detrimental. So you want to make sure that you're working with a reputable broker. You know, you've got all the questions lined up ahead of time. So I would say contact me, or there's a great source from the IBBA, the International Business Brokers Association, that
Okay.
if they're a member of that or they hold certain credentials, that would indicate they're professionals following the continuing education, things like that. And those would be the folks you probably want to deal with, at least explore.
So in my world of coaching, I tell people, I mean, let's pretend that I don't think I'm the coach for them. But when they ask, how do I pick a coach? One of the things I tell them is if the person that you're considering working with isn't willing to spend a good long time with you, couple of like hour-long conversations, thorough conversations, and if they're not willing to answer questions and you don't feel like they're asking you questions that actually make you like uncomfortable like a bit, then it's probably not the right person. And it sounds pretty similar. If I'm going to hire a business broker and they're not willing to spend a good amount of time with me, I'd be concerned.
I think that's good advice, Wayne, for sure, because you got to invest in your clients if you expect them to invest in you. And then you're building rapport and trust. I mean, that's what this is. It's a relationship business. You're working closely with your clients. You're getting the intimate secrets of the business
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah,
offering
it's a big
advice
deal.
on those. So you've got to be a trusted partner, and trust is something that's earned. So I would agree with that.
Okay, so I know that you prepared
Yes.
for the business builders some information to help them think ahead if they're considering selling their business. Here's some things you've learned. And so if you would, yeah, pull that up
Sure.
on the screen and
I'll cruise through it pretty quickly.
we'll talk through some of that. Well, I'll probably end up asking you a question or two.
Okay. So I always like to start with some interesting statistics here. This still blows my mind. Around 11,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day. Last year, LendingTree reported that people 55 and older own 52% of US businesses. So more than half of US businesses are owned by people that are 55 and older. So 60 to 70% of businesses simply close. They never sell. Nothing wrong with that, but if you're building your business to have a payout one day, you want to take note of this. That's about 500,000 businesses annually in the US that just simply close their doors. And only about 20 to 25% of businesses that are get listed actually sell. And if your business is under 1 million in revenue, those chances drop dramatically. So just to kind of frame up what's going on in the world of business ownership right now, and transition, that's pretty interesting numbers. So why this matters, Wayne, is, most business owners wait till it's too late. Like you just asked me previously, we'd love to get having conversations early. Our firm is going to be here for the next 15, 20 plus years. So, we're ready to work with people and wait and build those relationships over time. The decisions people make today affect the outcomes in 5 to 10 years from now. So if you're investing in equipment or a software, that's a long-term investment in the business. So
Sure.
a sellable business is also a healthy business. And selling is not an event. It doesn't just start and stop. It's a process that starts long before you even list it. So back to your point, just have a conversation, understand. Hopefully this slide deck will shed some light and give some folks some pointers. What makes a business sellable? We get asked this all the time. Clean books and records. You want to have everything documented. You want to have standard operating procedures in place, solid middle management or a team. This is critical. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. You want to have minimal reliance on the owner. Those two things go hand in hand. And a reasonable lease, terms, facility control. You want to make sure that you've got a place to do business. So those things really push the market or the saleability of your business.
I'm going to
So,
guess that that
sure.
it's almost like we put a little checkbox there, or maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, people could do a self-assessment of where they're at. But I would also get is that's something you must help people with, like what is like take a look at the financials, be like, tell them straight, this is messy or this is great, somewhere on a spectrum,
Yeah,
so on
we
and so forth.
absolutely do. Part of our valuation. So there's a lot of reasons to do evaluation real quick on that. There's, partner buyouts. There's, different reasons. When you're bringing a business to market, we like to take the market approach. So we look at comparable sales in that industry for companies that are similarly sized, playing in the same market, in the same geography. We look at what they sold for. We have access to all the SBA data. A lot of banks incentivize folks to provide the data so they can provide it through these subscription services. So we can get a good idea of who and what businesses are selling, and then we compare our business listing to those other businesses to help us gauge the most probable sell price. So yeah, having those things lined up can push the multiple up. We can often say, yeah, this is worth more because of X, Y, and Z. So it allows us some flexibility. So the more ammunition we have, the better we can market the business. All right, so what spooks buyers and banks? Everyone thinks about the buyers. A lot of times buyers are dependent on their investors or their banking partners to fund the purchases. So again, the financials is on top of the list. Messy financials or non-accrual accounting. If they're doing cash-based accounting, you might want to switch that up a year or two in advance to start documenting things differently. The owner is the glue holding it together. That is a big scale. That's a high risk for a buyer to see the owner being the glue. There's no formal processes or team in place, a lease that's about to expire, customer concentration or vendor concentration. If 40% of your business, 50% of your business comes from one or two customers, that's scary. So we want to address that. There's a lot of ways to address these things. Contracts, long-term, things like that. You can obviously diversify your clients, spread it out, things like that. So with time, with planning, most of these could be overcome, which would ultimately make the business more marketable. So we hear this a lot. I should have started earlier. I didn't realize how hard it's going to be to replace myself. Or I underestimated how picky buyers and banks can be. We actually hear that one a lot. Like, oh, I got a great business. Look at this potential. We talked earlier about potential. Yeah, buyers aren't going to pay you for the potential that they're going to have to implement their hard work to achieve. Banks are the same way. So some of these buyers are picky. Everyone's attending seminars and, how to buy a business with zero money down, and they all think that seller financing and they can get the owner to hang on there. But if you have a good business, we should have the upper hand. And we maintain that position throughout the process. So what buyers are really asking behind the scenes, they want to know, can this run without the owner? Some businesses can. What happens if top employees leave? How accurate are these numbers? Most businesses we're dealing with have professional accounting firms that are, handling that. But we just had a situation where an accounting firm wasn't familiar with the subtleties of the inventory. Some stuff was refurbished and they weren't depreciating it properly over time. So it kind of got a little messy with the inventory, but with proper identification and 1 year tax returns, we could fix those things. We could bring it to a place that's, you know, not going to send up a red flag for a buyer. Buyers are also asking, where's the opportunity to grow? They want to, I love what you did. Sometimes having a, I use the word dumpy little website, but having a website that could use improvement is an advantage. So we try to find
Sure.
weaknesses and turn them into advantages. Someone's going to want to add e-commerce or something, redo it with their own flavor and color to the website. So they like that. There's a website there. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you and I talked a couple weeks ago to get ready for doing this, and I think you mentioned something about you were working with somebody who was ready to sell their business, and they said that to you, like, "Oh, hey, we don't want to do this until we fix the website and everything." And you actually said to them, "Yeah, don't do it." And that's probably surprising. That's interesting and surprising information.
Yeah, so I thought in that situation that maybe 10, I haven't built a website in a while, but imagine 10, $15,000 to get a
Or
halfway decent website built. The ability to position, I don't think they're going to get the return on that. I feel like the buyer's excitement over doing it their way or his way is going to be more advantageous to the sale than having a website that you just created that the buyer might not even like or have different plans or want to go in different avenues or bring in different products, things like that. So yeah, that was our advice. We kind of shoot people straight. Hey, this is just what I think. This is what my experience says, but ultimately we support the owners and what they want to do. But that's a good point. How risky is this? Everything comes down to risk. So when we're applying a multiple to the valuation, I have an example coming up here in a minute. It all comes down to risk. The lower the risk, the higher the value. It's, very simple. So, what can a business owner do now? They can clean up their books and business and personal separate. This is something that I neglected to do personally. I was, you're running the business 8, 9 years, 10 years. You're getting personal emails on your business. If you're the business owner, it just happens over time. It's easier. Your accountant starts sending you things. So separating the business and the personal space is very important, even on an email level. But, you want to we've had people get, I don't say burner cell phones, but different cell phones so we can have direct contact with our client at all times that we're not going to have to worry about someone hearing a voicemail or picking up someone else's phone, things like that. So people get separate emails because sometimes, most of the time with an asset sale, um, emails might not transfer, but if you did like a stock sale, all that information is going to transfer. So that email address with all those emails is going to transfer. So you don't want to be having, especially conversations with us, negotiating deal structure, things like that. You want to keep that stuff separate. So separating your business and personal would be a big thing that's going to take at least a year or so to start to undo. Um, now with Microsoft, you got your family, everything's interconnected. So that would be a big, and again, if you have an IT person, they can all help with that stuff. Document your top processes, start small, even if it's just simple, like, how do we pick an order? How do we
okay.
take an order? What do we do if this happens? Just write it down simple, and those things go a long way.
So as an example, because you explained this in the fireplace store, what was the process you documented and any advice for how somebody documents that?
We put together protocol for how our service techs do a service call in the field, steps they have to follow, the order in which they have to do things. So when we brought a new hire on, it was very easy just to here's the protocol. When we brought new warehouse people on, same thing. This is the process. Check it off here, go back to the computer, mark it off. You just gotta write down what you do every day. Most owners take for granted that, oh, Sally's been doing it that way for 10 years. Yeah, have Sally write it down just so you have it. Things like that. So start small. You don't have to, give a blueprint to how to run your business, but, how we process an order would be, starts with a phone call or a fax or an email, however the order comes in, then what happens, and just write it out step by step. And you might never need that process until you go to sell. But then when you can say, hey, here's all my procedures, here's our processes, that says to a buyer, organized, professional, accountable. So even without, the unconscious, you know, things that go along with that are huge. Um, delegate client and vendor relationships. If you're able to let someone else manage a little bit, or hey, this is my associate, they're going to start helping you out when I'm not around, things like that. So the relationships aren't so driven to the owner. We would want to get the lease or property ownership squared away. No bank, and this was a big thing when we sold our business, we had 7 years left on a lease, which you would think would be sufficient, but the SBA wanted 10. So they wanted to know that the buyer had a place to do business for the entire term. So we got the landlord to write a, option that may or may not be invoked for the 3 years, which covered us over the 10, which got the deal over the finish line. So there's all sorts of things that a good broker can do to help get you there. Get a valuation. This is a big thing here where people are not sure what their business is worth. They never maybe paid for a professional valuation. This is a good benchmark. You have a place to start. You can then, in 2 or 3 years, compare the valuation, see if what you're doing is working, things like that. So, those would be some action items that a business owner could take right now, a little bit at a time. Here is a real case study, Wayne. Someone came to us with a business that was very owner dependent. So it was kind of high risk. So if you see here, we used a 2.8 multiple of SDE, which is seller's discretionary earning, which is the equivalent to EBITDA in an owner operated business. A lot of the listings we take could either be sold, it's almost 50-50, sold to an individual, entrepreneur, or private equity, a strategic buyer, someone in the industry looking to expand and grow through a strategic acquisition. It's like me and my partner make jokes that it's funny how all of our deals, when we calculate the valuation, we show EBITDA and SDE because really a sharp person can come in and buy it, or a sharp company that's looking to grow can buy it. So we kind of present our listings both ways. But in this case study, 2.8 SDE is the seller's discretionary earning. That's kind of average SDE multiple to use. So we valued the business at 1.8 million. The owner was like, "Oh, I was expecting more," you know. So
Sure.
we made some suggestions. It was very owner dependent. So it took 2 years, almost 2 years, put an ops manager in place. We got on the phone with their accountant and cleaned some things up. The business owner talked to their landlord and got a new 5 year extension on the lease. So just by taking those steps, when we reevaluated the deal, we valued it at 2.6 million. We used a 4 times multiple now because it was less risk. Things were in order, which is an $800,000 increase in under 2 years.
Right.
So that was a real life example that we had. I just wanted to share that. So who would have think, you spend 70, 80 grand on hiring an ops manager, 100 grand, whatever it is, you're getting 800 back. So that return is huge.
Absolutely.
So I just want to
Yeah.
get business owners thinking like that. Here's a funny comic. Put 40 years of blood, sweat, and tears into this business. This just barely covers the blood. We get that a lot.
Yeah, sure.
So finally, final thought, build a business. Build a business that someone wants to buy, not just one you want to escape from. So usually people like wait too late. They want to get the heck out of there. But if they switch their thinking and they build it, someone would want to buy it, they can start preparing now. Usually we have better results. So yeah, that's kind of all I had prepared. I was going to leave it open for Q&A. So if there's anything you want to understand, Wayne, or people can contact me directly, my information's on the slide here. So yeah, that was what I had prepared.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. It's like there was that one slide that I paused on and said a business owner could could probably use that as a checklist, or on a scale of 1 to 10, give themselves an assessment. And I think the only challenge of that is we are biased to a degree, or we would like it to be worth the blood and the sweat in your picture, not only blood, but could I at least get sweat, even if I'm not going to get tears, kind of thing. And it's why it makes sense that we would have an objective third party like you to start walking the path with us. Even if you think you want to do it kind of forever, it doesn't hurt to implement these steps and use kind of those checklists that you gave, because it's going to result in a business that is running more efficiently, which means less headaches and um, owner freedom, even,
Yes, you
right?
got it. And you don't have to have that desire to sell and grow, so if kudos to him for loving his work. That's what we all kind of strive for. You want to wake up every day and feel good about what you do and enjoy your work. So I can relate to that. The reality is, you're 60, 70 years old at some point, you're gonna hand the business over. You want to see either an employee, a family member. It might not be, bring it to the
Yeah,
open
for sure.
market and a random person, but you want to be able to hand it off to someone that can continue your legacy or growing expansion. So yeah, all those things we just talked about are certainly beneficial, even if you're going to give it to your kid or, things like that. You still want to have procedures documented. And even if it's for owner freedom, I felt like I could have done a better job of that personally. When I sold my business, I was, every kind of business owner is a little bit of a control person. They want to make sure they know what's going on. The good ones uh, are very involved, but the great ones step back a little bit and let other folks, do their job. So yeah, that would be just some thoughts. I could happily talk to any one of your clients, even if they're not in the mindset of selling, just to, I'm sure you with your coaching and consulting can help them as well get on track with their goals. But yeah, it comes down to understanding their long-term goals. And sometimes it's like your spouse too. Like we see a lot of people planning ahead because God forbid something happens, they don't want to leave this to their kids or their spouse to deal with
As a mess.
cleaning it up or
Yeah.
getting rid of it or,
Mm. Yeah.
whatever. So the more structure you have, the easier it'll be for whatever the future holds.
That's a good point too. Yeah, for sure. So Ed, thanks for
Yeah,
showing
my
up and
pleasure.
sharing your story and some wisdom with us.
Hopefully I can help business owners and that's kind of our mission. Obviously, this is our profession, but we ultimately have a desire to help people navigate, uncharted waters. So however we can be of assistance to you or your team, Wayne, I think what you do is great. And the way you help
I
business
catch it.
owners and empower them is awesome. So thanks for having me.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care,
All
Ed.
right.
Bye.
Bye, Wayne. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning into the Business Builder Way podcast. If this episode spoke to you, click that subscribe button and share it with a friend. That's how this message gets out into the world. If it is helpful for us to have a short conversation, I'd love to do that. Send me an email at wayne@businessbuildercamp.com.